What's up everyone, welcome back to the channel. We're back with episode 2 of season 2 of Road to Open Qualifying. Now, if you haven't seen episode 1, go and check that one out now because this episode is a continuation of the conversation that we were having with Shaheen Nakjivani about wedge play. If you are not familiar with Shaheen is a heavily sought after coach who works with several tour players. I strongly suggest you give him a follow on Instagram as he is regularly sharing insights that can help you improve your game. And just so that you all know, both Shaheen and I are available for online lessons through the golf coaching app Sneed. Now, don't forget that we are doing the Race to 5,000 subscribers giveaway, and we are giving away this official Masters Divot Tool set. To enter the giveaway, make sure you are subscribed to the channel, like this video, and comment your favorite Masters memory in the comment section below. The draw will take place once we hit 5,000 subscribers, or at the end of the 2025 Masters Tournament, whichever comes first. Now, without further ado, let's get right back into it.
Let's talk about if you're trying to hit a 50 to 55, 60 yard shot. If you're somebody who needs to take a significant amount of distance off and you're hitting really a mid-range for a higher level player, 50 to 60 yards, that awkward distance that your everyday golfer stands on the fairway and they're like, I have no idea how to hit the shot. What would you typically say you're doing?
Generally, assuming a stock flight, not trying to launch or anything, setup doesn't really change.
Correct,
I like to feel like I'm controlling the distance of the shot through length of the backswing.
Right.
Now, to me, there's definitely a feel versus real situation that goes on here.
100%.
Because I'll feel like my, 9 o'clock or left arm parallel isn't a true 9 o'clock. It's more up here, but that's just my mind, right?
Yep.
But I feel like, okay, that's like my 80-yard shot, and this would be like my 70, and that'd be my 60. But they all end up pretty much in the same space, and it turns out that it's just hand speed that's
changing.
Yes.
Okay. So I would argue that most recreational golfers do not have the skill set to alter their hand speed with enough consistency to see an improvement in it.
Yeah.
What's going to be the most likely outcome of a recreational golfer? Let's say you're mid-handicap, you're 15, 20 handicap, you're a golfer who only plays on the weekends, doesn't practice very often. They're going to stand there and they're going to try to control their hand speed to take distance off a wedge. What do you think is going to be the most likely outcome?
See it all the time, that decel minute fat.
It's going to be a disaster.
Yeah.
Really a disaster, right? They're going to stand there. Yeah, right. So pretty much
Roxanne's pointing at herself for reference. Yeah.
So the reality is what they're going to do, they're going to end up taking the club back just as far as they usually do, which more often than not is already too far to begin with.
Sure.
And then they're going to just, and then we call it the janky legs, right? It's just a lot of knee flex. They don't really have any sort of momentum through the ball. Too much decelling because it's the only way they can hit the ball a shorter distance when their backswing is super long, and it's a nightmare.
Sure.
Now, you're somebody who, your intent, I guess, is to try to control it through length. In reality, you said your length is more or less about the same, and the hand speed slows down.
Yeah, it's not the hand positions are not as different as I would expect them to be based on what I'm feeling.
Okay.
Right.
So I'm a big believer I always want the body to be active no matter how far you're hitting this ball.
Sure.
From mid-range wedges and up.
Okay.
If you're chipping around the green, I'm not going to tell you to be super active with your lower body. That's an entirely different conversation.
Yeah.
But we're talking about a mid-range wedge where you need some form of speed when you're hitting these shots. In order to create speed, the body, you never want to decel. As soon as the body decels, the hand's got to control the bottom of the arc. Your everyday golfer does not have the ability to do that with enough consistency. So how do we control and how do we ensure that there's still going to be some form of acceleration through the ball, or at the bare minimum coasting, so same speed? The body's got to move. So what I tell people is, even if you're going to be hitting a mid-range wedge shot, 50, 60 yards, ensure that your body, the core, the engine of it, which is really through like your sternum, through your pelvis, try to make sure that it is being active at all times on these shots. So if I'm hitting at 40 yards, I'm hitting at 80 yards, I'm hitting at 120 yards, I'm not going to try to shorten up how much my body is moving.
Sure.
Even if I'm hitting at 50 yards, I very much want my body to be active on these shots all the time. So the part that I agree with you on is the length that the arms want to travel back. Right? We want the body moving at all times. Always be active with the core and the engine of your movement. What I would say is I'm not a big fan of a clock system where we actually tell people to stop at certain backswing lengths.
Sure.
And there is a reason why. It's not just the fact that people are gonna not like be inefficient with it.
Yeah.
It's the fact that everybody's backswing lengths by nature are already very different.
Mm-hmm.
So the length that my backswing is very different than the length your backswing is, which is very different than the length that the other coaches in our studios backswings are.
Sure.
If I'm telling somebody to stop at a certain number, I am basically dictating how far back they need to feel to hit that shot. And I hate that. Meaning, if somebody's backswing is here, and I'm telling them, well, your half swing should be here and your three-quarter swing should be here, they're gonna feel something crazy because their backswing's already very short.
Got it.
How do I tell a golfer whose backswings are very short, no, but your half swing needs to be here and your three-quarter swing needs to be at 6 o'clock, 9 o'clock, 12 o'clock, whatever. It does not work.
Well, so relative.
Because I'm dictating what you need to feel, and I don't like doing that.
Yeah.
When it comes to good players in general.
Yeah.
And good wedge players.
Yeah.
What I say is I'm a much bigger advocate of a feel clock system.
Sure.
Meaning, what feels like three-quarters to you when you're taking the club back with your arms?
Which is another way of kind of saying what I was.
You're going based on feel.
Yeah, exactly.
You're going based on feel.
I started with a clock system, and then through, thinking this was my 9, and then looking at video, and my 9 was actually up here. I kind of realized, okay, well, I have a clock system, but it's more.
But it's not an actual number.
No,
it's
not.
what feels like
Exactly.
it to you.
Yes.
Because here's the thing. How often do you have students of your own or just golfers that you play with who are not at the highest level say like, man, I'm tired of overswinging. I'm trying to stop really short, but I need to feel like I'm here to hit the ball.
Right.
Dude, if you have to feel like you're here to hit the ball, you are doing something wrong, number one. Number two, you are going to create no speed doing this.
Yeah.
And then you might even have way too much acceleration in the follow through and like go from short to super long, which is a nightmare.
Yeah.
Because you feel like you're not going to hit the ball as far.
Yeah.
Now I'm messing with your sequence. I'm messing with so many other variables that I don't want to be messing around with.
Sure.
Right? So field clock system, meaning you're going to stand there, whether it's 50 yards, 60 yards, 70 yards, 80 yards, right? You're going to stand there and you're going to make sure, number one rule, your body is moving at all times. Your core is active and you have some good acceleration with your body no matter how far you're trying to hit the ball.
Yeah.
Number two is we are going to shorten the arm swing, but we're going to shorten the arm swing with just very simply feels of what feels like a half swing to you, what feels like a three-quarter swing to you, what feels like a full shot to you. Okay. Now it's a wedge in our hands. We probably want to try to avoid full shots as much as possible. Yeah. The reality is there are very few talented golfers who pull their wedges back this far. Yeah. And then rule number three, try to limit the use of your wrists as much as possible. Okay. Because we want to control our loft at impact. The number one rule we said at the start of this entire conversation was the best players in the world are really good at controlling their launch. Yeah. How do you control your launch? Well, one of the major components to controlling your launch is controlling your loft. Yeah. If I am overactive with my wrists, a lot of bend and then a lot of release, I am now losing complete control over my loft. I'm going from very strong loft to now I might be cupping my wrist and opening my face, which is all adding loft, to now I got to find a way to release it at the bottom and square it up. How much shaft do I have? Those numbers are moving. As I'm doing this, if you were looking at that on a 3D, you would be seeing the loft moving all over the place throughout your golf swing. You cannot control it anymore.
Yeah, makes sense.
So what do we want to do? Well, we want to try to control our loft by being a little bit more passive with the wrist. It doesn't mean you know, because some people think like, let me not use my wrist. They become stiff arm, stiff brick. Like, there's no momentum and fluidity to the movement. We don't want that. Yeah. But just try to be a little bit more passive with the wrists relative to what you're used to. You don't need to be a stiff brick. Yeah. But if you're somebody who's hinging the wrist a lot, maybe just go through some rehearsals where it feels like I'm doing it a little less. I'm doing it a little less. I still have full wrist hinge. You're still creating an angle. Yeah. But just try to limit the overuse of the wrist as much as possible.
So like a Steve Stricker kind of feel into this.
That is one of my favorite rules is think of Steve Stricker, think of golfers who are a little bit more passive with their wrists in their motion. If you replicate that, that would be a lot better for you than looking at a guy, let's say like a John Daly who has very active wrists, but has the skill set to still control his loft at the bottom. We don't want to be doing that. The less we can do in the
John Daly's one of one.
Exactly. The less we can do in the golf swing, the better, right?
Yes,
so
absolutely.
Your three rules for controlling your wedge play and getting really good at it is, number one, active core throughout the shots. If I'm hitting it 50 yards, 60 yards.
Just to clarify for the people watching, what would be the opposite of not using the core actively? More just an arm swing, right?
Yeah. I'm trying to control my shot. I'm trying to hit it 50 yards. I'm still using my wrists a lot.
Yeah.
And I'm not controlling my body, and now I have to find a way somehow to time this release, which the loft is faster.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to control my body. If I don't control my body, I can't hit down on it properly. Fat shots, thin shots, bladed shots, and even if I catch one, who knows how much loft I'm delivering, who knows how far that ball flies.
Fair.
And now I can't control a 60-yard shot anymore, and that's why the recreational golfer stands there and they start to tremble in the fairway, because they don't have a system in place that's, number one, efficient, but then number two, that's easy enough for them to do. Every time I hear recreational golfers trying to talk about how they hit these shots, it sounds so complicated and so nerve-wracking. Even a golfer of our skill level wouldn't be able to do it with any sort of consistency.
Yeah.
You want it to be as easy as possible.
Yeah.
So, body moves at all times. That's rule number one. Rule number two, shorten your swing through the arms, not through the core movement. My body's still making a full turn. It's my arms that I'm not letting run super long.
Okay.
So you can feel 3/4 arms, you can feel the half arms. It doesn't have to be half. Your half could be here.
Absolutely.
Whatever feels it to you.
Sure.
And then number three is, let's try to prevent the overuse of the wrists on a wedge shot. Right, a lot of wrist break on each side is not ideal. A little bit more Steve Stricker-ish typically is going to be easier for us to control that shot.
So I'll give that a try.
Yeah, let's
Body
see it.
swing, I'm going to try and what I feel is about half.
Sure.
Kind of turn back, a little bit more passive with the wrists. I feel like I hit it with my chest. I mean, I love the contact on that.
So the funny part about doing this shot is, number one, launch and loft are amazing.
Yeah, that was great. Yeah.
Number two, you're going to notice that your speed's going down.
Yeah.
The reason I like this is because as soon as you start to swing too fast, you start to lose control.
Sure.
If you're a recreational golfer, you're trying to hit a 60-yard shot, I don't have a driver in my hands. I'm not trying to hit it very far. All we're trying to do is control our club speed and control our loft.
Yeah.
If we can do that with consistency, we can hit a lot of really good wedge shots. Right?
Yeah.
So you're able to actually swing a little slower, still create speed. Believe it or not, your smash is actually going up and doing that.
I hit that really good.
And look at how your spin actually went down. So your problem that you had earlier actually gets sorted out because I'm limiting the use of your wrists.
Yeah.
This is likely limiting the amount of shuffling you're creating through your hands and arms and creating it more just through your body getting on top of the ball, which is why that's happening.
Yeah. I'll tell you, I didn't feel like I was that steep on that.
Which is fine, but the average,
it's not a problem.
it's not a problem,
But I felt much more of a sweepy motion.
for sure. But your body is still turning on top of the ball, which is why the tech angle is getting steeper.
Okay, so I'm going to try and do the same thing. I'm going to try and feel like I take the club a little shorter backswing here.
Another pretty decent one.
Yeah, that felt good.
So again, spin rate's lowering, which is nice.
Smash factor's coming up.
Factor's coming up because you're not creating as much club head speed.
Yeah.
So you're actually creating the ball speed through the body, not through the hands and arms. And your launch is still very good for the club that's in your hands. The loft is still very good. Attack angle and path are still in a similar range to where you started. The only difference is you're actually getting the launch down. And you're actually flighting it really nicely.
Yeah, no.
And for you, this is the system that I would do to flight it today.
Yeah.
As opposed to doing too much with the setup, this is a relatively easy system to put in place.
And I guess at that point, if I get, let's say I have 85 yards, just to throw a number out there, I could
Hit
basically...
a 3/4 shot.
Well, but I could take my...
Oh, 100%. And you can do that. So here's the thing. The fun part about this is when you start to have a system with the feels in place, you can cover 3 yardages with every club in your hands. Right? My stock, I have a 54 in my hands right now. My stock 54 goes about 100 to 105. But I can very comfortably hit it 90, 95, 100 by just playing around with the feels of how far back I'm going with my arms, even though my body's doing the same thing.
Cool.
Right? It's a very easy system to put in place. This is how you're going to start to cover those awkward yardages. And this is the thing that in my opinion, recreational golfers are lacking the most.
I mean, in my experience, I've been giving lessons several years now. I don't very often see amateur players practice this at all.
In general, they don't practice wedges, period. So there's another problem. Right?
But I mean, wedges, they'll hit some full wedges, maybe some 3/4, but the in-betweens, I mean...
But the issue is when you don't have a proper system in place, you don't see good results. Why would you want to practice?
Exactly.
That's the running.
I've been there before.
They run in circles, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, of course.
So I guess with this, I'm just gonna take those 3 keys, and then I'm just gonna play around with what I feel is half, what I feel.
100%. Which is very subjective to the individual.
Of course.
I don't want to dictate how far back you have to pull the club.
Yeah.
Obviously, I don't want an overswing. There are extremes that, to some point, we have to limit.
Yeah.
But I don't want to tell you that you absolutely have to stop here or here.
Sure.
I think that's ridiculous.
Yeah. No, I agree with that. It doesn't make it. Everyone's different. Right? So,
Great work.
yeah. No, that's really nice and simple. I like simple.
Easy enough. Yeah.
It's complicated.
Most people usually do.
All right, I hope you've enjoyed this series of videos about wedge play. Shaheen will be featured in future episodes of Road to Open Qualifying, so make sure to stay tuned for that. If you haven't already, please make sure that you are subscribed to the channel. That's going to be it for this video. Thanks for watching, and as always, I'll be back again next week with another video. Cheers, guys.